welcome to the Plagiarism Challenge by Sonja, Bjelobaba, Sabiha Mumtaz and Paddy Fishman. This presentation was done as a part of a project strengthening integrity and combat corruption in higher education in Serbia that was done between 2017 and 2019 as a part of Horizontal Facility for Western Balkans and Turkey, funded by the European Union and the Council of Europe and implemented by the Council of Europe. The aim of this part of the project was to better understand academic integrity practices amongst students and faculty in Serbia in order to identify problem areas and then to use this knowledge to develop courses in academic integrity that are adapted to the specific needs of the country and in that way to improve academic integrity programs and educational outcomes in Serbia. We did it by sending 2 online surveys that were voluntarily and anonymous, and questions were based on the service previously done in Sweden in 2018, but extended and adapted to this context. We got quite a few responses, 729 faculty members and 1,743 students. In this presentation, only completed questionnaires were analyzed, and it was 568 completed questionnaires from faculty members and 1,502 from students. When it comes to demographics, we had around 60% female students, which corresponds to the situation in Serbia at the time, and about 53% faculty was female. When it comes to university, we wanted to see whether there are any differences between public and private universities in Serbia. Most of students and faculty members were active at a public university. Only 9% of students and 18% of faculty members were active at the private university. So, aim of this presentation is to investigate knowledge of plagiarism norms and expectations amongst students and faculty in Serbia, and to investigate whether there is a conflict between self-reported knowledge of plagiarism and being able to identify what constitutes plagiarism. So, when we say plagiarism, do we mean the same thing? That's what we want. I'm going to cite Paddy Fishman here. There is no universally accepted academic definition of plagiarism. Conceptually, frameworks used to describe it vary widely, including literary theft, academic fraud, and infringement of copyright. So what we did is to describe 7 different cases of plagiarism, or possible plagiarism, and asked both students and faculty, what do you consider to be plagiarism? So here's the first case, and it's basically a simple copy-paste. But we describe it like this. To copy a section from someone else's text word for word and submit it as your own text without acknowledging the source. As you can see, there's a highly significant difference, and faculty tends to describe this as serious plagiarism in much higher degree than students. But both students and faculty consider this to be plagiarism or serious plagiarism. Very few are think that this is not plagiarism or are uncertain about this. The second case is copy-paste with bibliography. To copy a paragraph from someone else's text, make some minor changes, include the source in the bibliography but not specify the reference in the text. Once again, a highly significant difference, and as you can see, many more faculty members than students think of this to be plagiarism or serious plagiarism. And we have a situation where 27% of students doesn't think this is plagiarism, in addition to 12% that's not sure whether this is plagiarism or not. The third example was a sort of bad paraphrasing. To use most sentences from someone else's text, but change the order of sentences without direct citation. There is a reference in the text, and the source is included in the bibliography. Once again, highly significant difference. But what happens here, although most sentences are used from someone else's text in another order, almost half of students, 49.27%, and even 41% of faculty doesn't consider this to be plagiarism. And very few students, under 5%, think of this as serious plagiarism. Quite a lot of them is not sure whether this is plagiarism or not. The fourth case we have is pet writing. To write a paragraph by using one's own words to link short fragments from several different sources. There are no references in a text, but all of them are listed in the bibliography. Once again, a highly significant difference. The problem is that almost 39% of students doesn't consider this to be plagiarism. About as many, 40%, think of this as plagiarism, only 5% that this is serious plagiarism, and 16% is not certain. And the problem, even more, is that 20% of faculty members thinks that this is not plagiarism, and 12% is not certain whether this is plagiarism or not. But there is still a highly significant difference. The fifth case is actually not plagiarism. We described it like this: to base a piece on the main points in a source, but write them in a different order and scope. The new version is also different in terms of the examples used. A reference in the text or in a footnote is used. This is the first time and the only time we have a significant difference, not highly significant one. And as you can see, about 61% of students and 64% of faculty recognize this as not being a case of plagiarism, but around 90% think of it that it is plagiarism. Some of them even that it is serious plagiarism, and there is quite a lot of uncertainty whether this is plagiarism or not. We also wanted to investigate self-plagiarism. The first example is about papers. To copy a paragraph from your own earlier published text word by word without acknowledging a source, and 40% of students think this is okay, 15% is not certain, and 22% of faculty thinks also that this is okay. But most of faculty recognize this as plagiarism or serious plagiarism, and a minority of students. The last case is about self-plagiarism in assessments. To submit a work previously submitted to another course without specifying that. The difference is once again highly significant. And we, as you can see, 41% of students think this is not plagiarism, that it is okay to submit a work on the same work on two different courses. 18% think is not certain about it. 30% think this is plagiarism, and some of them, 12%, think this is serious plagiarism. Faculty is much more concerned about this. Only 19% thinks that this is okay, and 40% thinks this is plagiarism, and 26% that this is serious plagiarism. But we also have a situation where 15% is not certain. So as you can see, in these cases, faculty tends to describe all these cases as much more serious than students in each and every case. We wanted to see whether there is a difference between public or private university, but there was no significant difference, and neither there was a significant difference when it comes to gender. So we all wanted to ask them, do they think you have sufficient knowledge about plagiarism? And this question came after these 7 cases. So students, only 24% of students and 46% of faculty members answered yes. The majority of students answered no. 1/4 of faculty answered no. And many students and faculty members answered, I don't know. So we wanted to see whether our students and faculty really have sufficient knowledge about plagiarism. So we did some further analysis in order to evaluate whether the respondents saying that they have the knowledge of plagiarism actually understand plagiarism, and the answer is no, not really. And what was interesting is that respondents claiming to have the knowledge of plagiarism constitute higher percentage of wrong responses than those that have chosen don't know. So people that do think that they know about plagiarism actually did worse than people that didn't know about that enough. And there is an interesting situation when we compare a question we asked students whether they have received information on plagiarism in their courses, and the question where we asked faculty whether they have informed students about plagiarism in the context of their teaching. Students basically answered that they didn't receive the information on plagiarism, 55% of them. Only 14% answered yes, and the information was sufficient. 17% answered yes, but it was not adequate, and 13% were not aware whether they have received the information or not. At the same time, 71% of the faculty answered that they certainly did inform the students about plagiarism in the context of their teaching. So while faculty thought that information was sufficient, apparently students didn't agree. Then we thought, okay, this might not be an important issue for people, but luckily it is. Both students and faculty consider academic integrity to be an important question. Almost all of them, actually, 90% of students and 99% of faculty members. So the conclusion, academic integrity is important, and we have some mismatches. The first one is between faculty and students, both when it comes on viewing the plagiarism, perceptions, and how harsh they judge the cases of plagiarism. There are differences. And also we have a mismatch between what people report knowing and what they can demonstrate. So our conclusion is that we should put less trust in self-reported understanding and more on demonstrated understanding. People showing us that they really know the difference between, in this case, plagiarism and non-plagiarism. And of course, more education is needed. We need both courses for students, but also some teacher training. So thank you so much. Here is my email, and please contact me if you have any questions.